Welcome to Charged Up Studio Live, where small business owners get charged up for success. Are you a small business owner? Do you find yourself struggling through the many responsibilities that come with the title entrepreneur? Well, we're here for you. Charged Up Studio is hosted by Market Atomy LLC, your prescription for what we call OPA. What is OPA? It's when you become so overwhelmed with the confusion that comes with business ownership that you become paralyzed and ultimately avoid doing anything in hopes it will take care of itself, or you put it off till later. Does that sound familiar? I'm your host, Danna Olivo, and each week we bring a business professional eager to charge you up as they talk about the many things that keep you from moving forward with your small business. So are you ready to get charged up for success? Let's hit it. So welcome back to Charged Up Studio, where we bring you insightful conversations with industry leaders and experts. I'm Danna Olivo, your host, and today we are continuing our monthly focus on the power of purposeful marketing, integrating business strategy and spiritual energy. We have a very special guest joining us, Ms. Kim Woods, president of Kim Woods Advisory. She calls herself a business strategist and master astrologer, and she'll be exploring the intersection of business strategy and astrology, where two worlds collide in a cosmic conversation. So before you tune out, thinking that this is just a lot of woo-woo, let me just say this. There are many times that the universe has led me in a direction I never thought I would go. But the signs were so bright and blatant, they were impossible to ignore. We've all had these encounters, but we've just been too preoccupied and we've missed the opportunities. I highly recommend you hear what Kim has to say. It could change the direction of life or business. So before we get started, Kim, I have a very important question to ask you. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Have you always listened to the universe and mapped the stars to get your answers?
I would love to say yes, and of course I cannot, right? Because there was a time where I didn't listen. There was a time where I thought I knew, I knew the trajectory of my career. I knew the trajectory of my life. I thought I knew more than the universe, Danna, right? How cheeky is that, right? So I will say I followed astrology and I had an astrologer for a really long time, but being interested in dabbling is very different than allowing that information to help you guide the course in the direction.
Well, that leads me into the real question here, okay? If you could go back in time and give your young self some solid advice, what advice would you give her and at what age?
At what age? I'd probably do it in late high school, early college. And I would say to follow your heart versus follow what other people are telling you what to do. Because if I had done that, I wouldn't have had probably 5 majors in college. I was pre-med, and then I was who knows what, who knows where I ended up. I ended up in economics, which was really great, but I only ended up in econ because that was the only way I could graduate on time, and I didn't have the option to take more time. Now that I look astrology, economics, and business strategy, it works. But if I had followed my heart, I would have done something like mythology, or I would have done social anthropology, or I would have done sociology, or maybe even psychology, because I have to say any one of those subject matters would have prepared me better for the work that I do now than an economics degree undergrad and an MBA grad.
Well, and in all honesty, those subject matters would help any business owner.
Absolutely.
every bit of that is carried through in our entrepreneurial lives. So
Yes.
that very good, very good. So sorry about that. Let's delve deep into the minds of visionary thinkers who bridge the gap between business strategy and the ancient wisdom of astrology. So to start off, could you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you found yourself at the crossroads of business strategy and astrology?
Yeah. So I had grown up in corporate. I ended up doing consulting in Oracle, had the fabulous career, all the trappings. You can imagine what it was like. And then got pregnant and I was having my first child. And I thought, oh, no worries. There's no stopping. It's just going to be a rejuggling of, and every parent out there can laugh. We can pause. There's just going to be a rejuggling. Well, he was born with significant issues. And so that put a stop to whatever I had been thinking from a forward trajectory. So I ended up leaving corporate, ended up, quite frankly, dealing with his issues full time for a while. And they were that significant. And then as he was developing a little bit, we realized the doctors were telling me, oh, he's not going to be able to throw and catch a ball. He's not going to be able to walk up the stairs normally. He's not going to have a normal social life. He's not going to have a sense of humor. And I was like, time out. Wait a minute. What are we talking about? You're just coming up with solutions and skills and strategies. Like, I don't want that. I want to get to the core of this. I want to be able to shift his life 100%. And so I did that. I literally was pursuing, obviously, all Western methods, of course, but then it went into Eastern practices and we did everything. And at the time, what started to happen, we started to get majorly great results for him. But my life was like two skis going separately. I had the personal where it was all Eastern and everything was through that lens. And then I had the professional where my clients would tell me, keep the woo at home, Kim. We just want your business strategy mind. And I would think to myself, oh, you're getting both. And this is why you can have a growth trajectory of about 5,000% and not lose anybody. And this is, and this is why all your deals work out and all the things, because I was bringing all of that intuitive knowing and all of that energy in. But that was fine. And until it wasn't, of course, till the skis got way too separate. And I realized, you know what, I really want to get to the root of things because my business strategy was only giving solutions and skills. It wasn't really getting to the core to clear the pathway to your success. And the marriage of the two does both.
Yep. And you're absolutely right. I'm going through a stage right now where, I'm at an age where osteoporosis is kicking in. Okay. And I've had a couple of issues as far as fractures, and things, and they got me on all this medication, and things like that. And, my husband and I were talking and we were listening to this book. It's healthy. I think it was Healthy Child, Healthy Life or something like that. And it was all about, your nutrition, and things like that, and getting involved with an integrated physician. And so now I'm on the path of let's find one that I can work with, get me off this medication, because I've always been one for, acupuncture and all of this stuff. But, to treat the things that, to, like you said, get to the core. What's causing all this? Okay. What's causing the osteoporosis to really start kicking in? Is it my nutrition or is it just old age?
And are there other, we are made up of so many elements. Like there could be some beautiful homeopathic or some other holistic vibrational energy that could support that wonderful nutrition. And I'm about the marriage of the two. So if there is a medication that your body likes that happens to be more traditional, great. If it doesn't though, and it happens to be more, earthy, that's also great. And it could be the combination of the two.
Yep. No. And the other thing is finding out where your sensitivities are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Finding out where your sensitivities are, so that's the first step in the whole process. And when we think about business, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Let's find out where where your weaknesses are. Okay. So you talk about your success making methodology. What is it?
Yeah, so literally I've gone into, I mean, because I'm an astrologer, right? Like, so I have done the 5,000 hours and the million clients and all the things. And what
Yes.
I realized is the stars are beautiful because astrology can help you. It's the map of your potential when you look at you internally. And then when you're looking at what's happening in the sky, it's the directional map. That's great. But we still have free will. We still can do whatever we want. We can completely ignore that. We can say, oh, whatever, because our minds are still very active. So my methodology combines the energies of both very practical methods with the stars, and it says, okay, there are two sides to every coin, like we were just talking about, right? So there's a very beautiful, I call it the masculine strength of logic and
Right.
reason and
Right.
goals and production. But then there's that feminine wisdom that most of us have been conditioned not to listen to. And it's no one's fault. It's just been cultural or familial, or what
Exactly.
have you, right? So creating space and time for that, because that's where you get the beautiful collaboration and the potential and the influence and the energy. Like if you look at traditional leadership, traditional business, there's exhaustion, there's stress, there's, look at the quiet, what is it called? The quiet quitting, or, what have you. And remote has only made things even more stressful. So
Yeah.
we don't want people to be exhausted and feeling like they don't have any time or support, or they're just living in lack. And it's the combination of both of these things that brings you to the ability to understand that there's cycles, understand that you matter and your energy matters, understand that there's a beautiful way of collaboration that doesn't have to feel competitive. And it just combines all those things so that we have a process that you can follow so your mind doesn't run amok.
Right, right. When we talk about astrology, we're talking more on a personal level here. Your stars, cosmic reading, that type deal. You're talking about that personally, but how does that explain how that feeds into our business?
Yes. So there's two things really. There is that personal glimpse, right? That is beautiful. It's very deep. If you don't have that aptitude, or if you just don't have that appetite, then you can look at the way that the stars are leaning in the sky, right? And have somebody interpret them for you. So the way that it can help in business is it can help you set your strategy, because you'll know what the energies are. Like this year is all about power. And it's all about being able to literally clear the pathway to your success, which is why all my messaging and all my conversation with people is about that. But there's moments throughout those quarters that make up the year that there are some times where it's better to move forward and to do outreach and to sell. And there are other times it's better to streamline, optimize, and deepen some of your offerings. And knowing when those times are do make it much easier to know how you should craft your plan, and when you should hire, when you should go on a retreat, when you should delegate differently, or when you should celebrate, or when you should show client appreciation. I mean, there are better times than others.
No, and I'm curious now. My birthday was yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
I'm curious now, what does my astrology look like? How does what's
Right.
it look like? Because, I've had this energy about me that there's so much going on that I'm getting very it's positive energy that's going on, but it's almost overwhelming.
And that's exactly because you're a Gemini, right? So
Yeah.
a Gemini is always open to all opportunities, so curious, so open-minded, so flexible, so welcoming. You're like an open invitation to any idea, right? Like that's beautiful.
Right.
Young, it keeps you curious, but you're right, the overwhelm. I will say, matching that up with the energy that's going on right now. Oh yeah. And the good news is, in a few weeks it will start to feel a little bit more tailored, and you'll start to see more avenues that are going to come in. But in the meantime, what it's really about you choosing and prioritizing what feeds you and what really makes you sparkle and shine.
And I think this is important to point out because, like I said, there's so much happening around me, and I've got all of these businesses and individuals, people that I know, and we're all working on, okay, how can we work together?
Okay.
And how is that going to benefit each other, you know? And I'm working on about 3 different avenues here, you know. That's the way it is, you know, as a Gemini, you know, I'm not going I if it's not going to fill what my mission is for my business, I won't mess with it. But, you know, everything else that's happening, the 3 that I'm looking at, oh yeah, they fit. And like you said, now it's to the point where it's like this morning I woke up and I was journaling. And I said, the first thing the journal asked me is, what are my goals for today?
I love that.
And my goal for today was just to get organized because
Perfect.
there's so many things going on. I said, let's go ahead and take care of some administrative stuff, clean up my desk so that I can focus more, so that I can bring in these 3 and accept them, you know.
That which I love. It's like, so I have Gemini in my chart too. So
Okay.
what I say to, and we're intuitive visionaries, just to let you know, because I do
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
star helpful. So every morning I write down my list of what I'm going to do that day, because I have got such, just like you, so many opportunities and so many things going on, and we could do all of them poorly, and which of course we would never do. So
Right.
for us to get grounded and centered and focused is really wonderful, which if we were sitting in front of somebody else, for example, that may be a Virgo or maybe a Capricorn, they most likely don't have that. They're feeling the energy in the world, but they most likely don't have that need to become focused and administrative.
Right. Right. This always fascinates because I feel it around me. And that's what entrepreneurs, our business leaders need to understand, is to pay attention to the signs. Pay attention. Absolutely. So it's incredible how the cosmic rhythm aligns with our professional endeavors. Could you explain to our listeners how astrology can provide unique insights and strategies for navigating the business landscape?
Absolutely. So you said it perfectly. Like, we have lots of opportunities and we want to connect with others and we want to create opportunities and quite frankly, more business for ourselves, right? Either by making it easier or more streamlined or by opening up other channels. Depends on what's going on for you. And honestly, those are 2 different energies, right? So do I want to connect with more people and open up more channels? Or do I want to, restack and make things really deep and really winnow in and really optimize? Astrology will literally give you the answer if you want to be able to have that interpretation for you. The other thing is, it does depend on what's going on out there in the energies in the greater world, right? Because you might be drawn more to one of those areas versus another, right? So just taking the time and the step back and saying, okay, how can the energies in the world help me? Think of it like you strapping on a jetpack, or you having another level of support, or like imaginary friends working with you. Like, this really can help you because it's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it's going to save you aggravation, which I think is the best thing. So honestly, those 3 things are magic, I think.
No, definitely. So how does astrology help in identifying optimal timing for business launches, expansions, or major decisions?
Yeah. So honestly, at the top of the year, I do an annual forecast and I literally give people the timing for the year. And then I also have what I call the Star Boost, which we meet 4 times a year. And I give people like that quarterly advice. For this year, 2023, for the remainder of 2023, I will say the first half of the year was more movement than the second half of the year will be. So that's just hands down, like, just information for people. The other thing is, let's just think about what people might know, what might be a little bit more mainstream, because if you don't have an astrologer to interpret for you, knowing when people have heard Mercury retrograde, they kind of gasp now, right? Because they say it happens 3 weeks, 3 times a year. You can do things during those times, Danna, but you want to be mindful that you're going to have to be more patient. And you're going to have to take a little bit more time because it's going to be confusing and things are going to have snafus. So that's just kind of one layer. Another layer is, though, if you're really intuitive, do you need an astrologer to tell you when to do things, right? Because I have a feeling you're intuitive. So you'll say to yourself, you know what, June's a really good month, but maybe July's not. Or September seems like it might be a little bit slow, and maybe October will be a little bit better. I'm telling you, those two things are true this year. Or you could say, I don't have time to deal with that. So I would say follow someone that you trust and help them give you that timing, because a good astrologer who does business as well will be able to talk to you about investments, will be able to talk to you about getting funding and timing for that. They'll be able to talk to you about doing a joint venture, or, you know, launching another division, or doing those big business pivots, as well as when it's a really good time to soften and do things a little bit more slowly, or do some soft launches, or to do some more collaboration and outreach at a more intimate level.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So, do you know famous people who are currently following the stars?
There are so many people. So there's tons of celebrities that have come out and talked about it. There are much fewer business people that have come out and talked about it in this country. So, you know, we've got Beyonce, Madonna, Cameron Diaz, we've got J-Lo, we have Angelina Jolie. If you look across the celebrities, you'll find that they've had staying power in a different way than others have, which is really interesting to me. I know historically, when people have, you know, kind of asked the question about who is using astrology, you know, you'll find people like Albert Einstein and Ben Franklin, Hippocrates, Carl Jung. I mean, all Myers-Briggs is based on astrology, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah, no. That's interesting too, because it does get in, Myers-Briggs gets into the individual, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
And we're all driven by something. We're all driven
Absolutely.
by, you know, by something. And where's that something come from? It's our culture, the way that we were brought up.
Yep.
It's our morals. It's all of that. Where does that come from? Okay, it comes from our parents. It comes from, but you know, in all honesty, you know, when they start talking about the love languages, and they start talking about what am I thinking of? Oh, I can't remember now. It just went right out of my head. But when they start talking, oh, I know, the forces, like when I go into a room, okay, for networking or something like that, people will automatically pick up on my mood.
Oh, absolutely.
Mood will determine whether I'm open or closed.
Yes.
Okay. And so therefore, if you're not in that mood in a business environment, don't go.
Exactly.
Don't go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
don't force yourself just because you said you were going to do this. If you're not in the mood, you know, and I've run into that a couple of times just within the last week. You know, I've gone to something, and I'm sitting there, and I've got so much stuff going through my head that I'm not in the mood to really network, you know, and people pick up on that, and they kind of steer clear of you. And this is only part of it.
Exactly. But I will tell you, from an energy perspective, that is true. But what if there was something that you had to go through? What if it was a conference or something that you had planned for, and it was like the thing? This is where I've come up with my success making methodology, and I have 6 avatars that are based on ancient astrology, and over 21,000 people have taken them. And one of the things I did, Donna, is I went through to say, how does your energy work when you're in with groups? And then what strategies could you use to be able to help you? Because what if you had to and you weren't in the mood? Knowing how people react to you naturally, and then what you'd need to do to honestly to make that a better experience for yourself, and to make it actually be beneficial. Whatever your goal is in that. It could be family and you're just trying to get through it, right? Or it could be a networking event that is going to be very beneficial for you, but you are just not in that mode.
Right. You know, there's something to be said about, you know, you controlling or being able to manage your emotions.
Absolutely.
So can you share an example of, say, a business challenge or opportunity where astrology played a significant role in shaping the strategy?
Okay, I could probably come up with 100, but I will endeavor to come up with one that I'll feel like your audience can really connect to. So yeah, two examples are coming up. So a business owner that wanted to join a mastermind, and it was at a point where it was going to be like their like flagship of the year or what have you, right? And this woman was struggling with her own power to feel confident enough when she walked into the room, she could walk in as an expert. We were already working on that. From an astrological perspective, we looked at, there were 2 or 3 different times that she could have joined, because they were doing these rolling flagship and things depending on where she was. And so I looked at her personal astrology when it was going to be strongest for her, and I looked at the timing of when it was going to happen during the year. We married all that up, and I have to say, she went in and she rocked the house so
Right.
much so. I mean, these people are like $100 million entrepreneurs, like, I mean, they're 9 figures. She's just gone from, by working with me, from 500 to 1.5 million. She's a little bit north of that right now. So she was feeling like, why am I going to be in the room, right? And I was like, no. So here we did, and we did position it. She came out with a few clients, which was beautiful. But most importantly, they asked her to do a presentation at the next one. Talk about change, right? So share the stage with us. They didn't ask anybody else in the room.
Wow. That's it's funny that you say that, because one of the 3 things that I am working through right now is I am starting a mastermind.
Okay.
For small and medium businesses in July. And I wanted to do this for the last 2 years, longer than that, pre-COVID. Okay. But the timing wasn't right. I didn't have the time, the energy to do it. And then I was offered to partner with C-Suite. Do I know you through C-Suite?
You do, yes.
Yeah. So C-Suite offered to partner with me. They handle all the back end, the marketing, everything. And I facilitate. And I said, oh my gosh, this is, these are the signs that we're talking about, So I said, absolutely. So for the last 6 weeks, that's what we're doing, is we've been building all of this. Here's an organization that has the staying power and the strength behind it to market and do what needs to be done. Me, I have the knowledge base and the passion for small, medium businesses and what they need. So it's a melding of, so that's where these signs, fulfill me, in the sense where, I didn't ask them, they came out. And if you put it out there to the universe, the answers will come back.
Absolutely.
The answers will come back. So absolutely wonderful. So let's move on. How does astrology provide insights into an individual's strengths, weaknesses, and potential areas for growth in the business world?
Okay, so every aspect. It can give you your leadership style when you're calm, or when you're under stress. It can give you your money signature to know how you're going to be able to attract and make money, to be able to manage and keep money, to be able to invest money. It can tell you what your success signature is. It can talk about like your communication style, delegating style, and I'm going to go into timing just for a minute, like when to have difficult conversations, when not to, if that's something that you struggle with. It gives you information about marketing, about sales. I mean, name an area, and honestly, I can give you the exact unique signature for you for every single one of those areas.
Wow, I'm gonna have to get with you and get my mine mapped out here.
Yeah, I call it, literally, you can, in an hour-and-a-half meeting with me, I call it the success accelerator. It can be completely transformative for you and your business.
No, definitely. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in it. I've just never delved into it as much. I just watch the signs and grab onto it when it happens,
Great.
But
yeah.
so how can businesses strike a balance between rational, data-driven decision making and intuitive insights gained from astrology.
So here's the thing. You want the marriage. You do not want to do one or the other.
Right.
That was my best advice. So someone who says, I'm just going to follow the astrology. My astrologer said I can't do this because, I say, no, time out. You have a mind, you have, propulsion. This is your free will, your choice. You want to run through the sifter, if you will, right? Because there are times where people could say, for example, a client I have, it's the exact right time for her to launch, even though in the stars, like for everybody else, it's not, right? And
Right.
so, for me to be able to tell her that is great. But what if she wasn't working with me? Going with your gut to say, oh, the timing, it has all come together for me. It seems like look at you for mastermind, right? Like all the things have happened. It's been like the perfect storm to have it be now. And yet, from an astrological perspective, I will tell you, July is not a great time for you to do that. And so what? Who cares? Because it is exactly the right time, because the opportunity is so great.
Yeah.
So this is where you still have, it's the marriage of the mind and the intuition. It's the marriage of the rational, practical production of the masculine with that intuitive, sensory wisdom of the feminine. And honestly, you can do two things. One is you can journal, or you could go for a walk and just take some space. Just
do both.
Right? Do both. Just give yourself a chance, because we've been so conditioned to be more mind oriented and more rational oriented. That's the only reason why I'm saying give the other some space. If we had been conditioned the other way, I would say, let's actually set some goals. But for most of us, we are very good at that masculine left brain doing, and we most often have a relative weakness in that creating a space and listening and believing in it and trusting it. We want to build that muscle to be able to trust. And that's where astrology can help, because you get validated. I can't tell you how many times people come to me and say, I knew that. And I said, yes, you did, because you're intuitive. And that's why you knew it. And so now you have that validation. So now you can lean into that intuition a little bit more.
No, definitely. No, I love talking about this stuff because, and let's explain a little bit to our audience the difference between masculine and feminine energy. Okay.
Yep.
And I'll let you explain. I've got my idea of what masculine and feminine is, but I'll let you explain it from your point of view.
Yeah, so I'll do the more traditional from the masculine perspective. It's the doing, it's the action. Think of verb, think of production, think of logic, think of reason, think of planning, think of goals, think of targets, think of even competitive, like competing with yourself. Think of having more control and being purposeful and pen to paper, pick up the phone and call somebody, right? Like that's the masculine side. Very necessary, like so amazingly strong. The feminine side has a little bit of a different energy, but it's still just as effective. It is that creative side. It's the stopping and taking stock. It's strategy when you have that 30,000 foot view and you're making an assessment. You're just like widening that lens. It's looking for patterns. It's sensing like that, ooh, I have that instinct that this person might not be the person for me, but I'm not really sure, but I need to just take a beat to just gut. Yeah. It's that gut, it's that feeling, it's having that that impression. It's very nuanced. Right. It's the space in between. It's honestly the unknown, which is why our minds go, hey, we're not going to touch that because it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's right. But it just is. And then think about when you haven't followed that gut instinct, or you didn't give yourself enough time, or you didn't allow that to percolate. Imagine, Danna, if you had done a mastermind 2 years ago and pushed and pushed and pushed and exhausted yourself and threw resource at it, and maybe it didn't materialize, you wouldn't have been so open when C-suite said yes to you.
Yeah. No,
you
definitely.
Been approached, right? Like you may not even available for that. So this is where you were like, it's not the right time. I don't know why it's not the right time. My mind, it could be great. I know enough. You haven't changed. Your expertise is still there.
Yeah.
But you listened, and now look at the opportunity. It's much greater. That's what usually happens.
Now, as a strategist, and you can probably associate with this more, we can be, say 70% masculine and another 30% feminine, and I find with me, I am probably, I wouldn't say 70, maybe 55, 60% masculine, because I am very rigid in strategy and to-do lists and, and all this other stuff. But on the other side, I come in on the feminine side, I come in because I understand my clients. And so
Yes.
by understanding my clients, I can relate to them and talk to them in a way that they feel comfortable.
Exactly. And honestly too, I like to talk about it as well in the masculine tends to be more goal driven from an achievement perspective, right. Award, or look at what I've just attained.
Right.
The feminine side tends to be more, am I satisfied? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I have my freedom? Did it give me the flexibility and the cycle that I like to work in? Did I even address that for myself? Do I recognize my biorhythms? Do I then say yes to them? And this is where, with the marriage of the two, helps you be sustainable, because you're not just ever growing and ever expanding and ever exhausting yourself. You're allowing yourself those moments and that recognition that for you and your clients, that there are just tempos and paces that come naturally for people. And if you're working against that, you're not going to be scalable. You're just not.
Yeah. So when I'm working in the masculine side and I achieve certain things, the feeling I get by achieving that is the feminine side.
It is, as long as you're listening to yourself, because I like to say to people, everybody has a different definition of success. Right. So I have clients that they absolutely do not want to be on that world stage. They do not want to be thought leaders. They are very satisfied having, one I adore. She has a salon. She's wildly successful. Her biggest thing is when she can take vacations. Literally, you want to know how she uses me? When can I take vacations? And I'm like, okay, let's set up your business so that you can do that and still be profitable. You've done. She's grown a bunch. That's wonderful. And now let's look at when the best times are for you.
Oh, definitely. That's very interesting. Very interesting. So how can astrology help businesses adapt and thrive in times of uncertainty, like COVID,
absolutely.
and recession and change?
Yeah. Well, it does create certainty. Like, I predicted COVID, right? So back when September, did you too? Like back in September of 2019, October 2019. Now, first of all, I knew 2020 was going to be just every astrologer did. Like it was like the timeout. It was going to be a timeout. We all knew that. We just didn't know what flavor it was going to be. Right. So I didn't, it could have been, because think about it, it could have been a lot of different scenarios. And when I looked at March of 2020, I was like, oh, my son reminds me, he's like, Mom, you were talking about that in 2010. I didn't realize that I was doing that. But I almost didn't know what the path through was going to be. But then in 2019, when that fall came, I was like, oh, wow, I did say it feels like it's going to feel like we can't breathe. But I didn't exactly know what that meant, but I knew what that meant. Honestly, that muffling helped because the energies were so incredibly volatile.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So there's that. But then in like 2021, 2022, 2023, if you have someone who is analyzing across, I do it across like 500-600 years, because everything is that big in cycle, and someone who can do that, as well as look at the information that's coming much more at a faster tempo. And you can know, like this year I had said, you're going to feel as if the floor is falling out this March. And I know March is a trigger for everybody. I was like, don't, but it's going to be fine. It's going to seem a lot worse than it actually is. So if you know that, right, then it's really helpful to be able to position. So I literally had a handful of clients do tons of launching and tons of things in that January, February timeframe when they normally wouldn't. They normally would do it in that March, April. And I was like, we're not doing it then. You can have smaller things, but the big things are going to happen. So that's really helpful for people.
No, that's very true. Very true. It's interesting. So what, in your opinion, and based on what you're seeing, what are we looking at for the rest of this year as far as the energy around us, as far as business is concerned? we're coming up on a recession, and I'm sorry, we are coming up on a recession. It may not be as bad. Yeah.
It may not be as bad. And I'll be honest with you, it's really interesting. If you look at the financial instruments, the financial instruments are still healthier than what the media is talking about, right? But when you look at the economists and you look at what they're talking about, who said 2% inflation was the best inflation to have in the world? Because you won't have any wage growth and you won't really have any growth. So it really should be naturalized around 4.5% or 5%. I will lose my economics card for that, if I had one. But that's
right.
So if we could relax and we could give a little bit of space, then the banks would be able to give a little space, and then all the systems would flow better. I will say to you that, and I don't know when this will air, but I will say that the mid-July to the beginning of September, it's going to be really tough to feel as if things are going to come together. Because what the planets are doing basically is they want you to become recession proof. They want you to realize your value, because guess what? It doesn't matter whether you just sold $100 million or you just sold $1. You're still the same awesome person. Like, you haven't changed. And the stars are trying to teach each one of us that. Now, that's tough to hear.
Right.
So what I've been advising people is go back to what really works for you. You know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And probably have gone, as you grow, you get away from that because you have other things coming in and you've opened up more channels, and that's really great. But go back and strip down to the basic and make sure that that is really firm and really strong and central. So for your example, Donna, it could be like, you're going to do this mastermind. That's wonderful. But how your clients come in, and you know your best service for them. So you're not going to stop doing that while you're launching this other thing. That would be the practical.
Right. And and it's funny that you mentioned, the time frame there, because I work within the public sector as well with my clients.
Okay.
And helping them, go after public procurement projects and prepared and stuff like that. And basically the Army, I think it was the Army or the Navy the other day, was telling me that the perfect time right now is now through the end of September for us to really push the government into, look, we're here. We're ready to do work for you.
So it's interesting because they've already earmarked, because September 30th is their fiscal year, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So that makes so much sense, because I would say the government has an allocation issue, right? You know that. So for that perspective, if the dollars have already been earmarked, you're fine. This is for that more, maybe you're on a calendar year and your clients are on a calendar year and they're looking at their numbers, and they're, quite frankly, their numbers have been softer this year. They just have. In most cases. I mean, we've had wins for our clients that they aren't like that, but I'm talking general. I'm talking just general now. And so people are much more hesitant. And then when they read things in the media, they're infinitely more hesitant, right? So it's that spiral. The stars, interestingly enough, there is a ton of money out there. There is a ton. It's just whether you can be unwavering about your leadership and your own genius and your own solutions, and just know that you're going to be fine. And I will say Q4 this year, it is a really great time to dive deeply and to optimize.
Yep. I'm thinking about my strategies for the end of the year. I plan on holding a 3-day in-person strategic planning retreat.
Okay.
In November, the beginning of November.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I will tell you, it gets a little confusing in September this year. October, there's a beautiful opening for feminine leadership, for women leaders. And it doesn't have to be women. It just is that opening of that more collaborative, intuitive, potential-oriented, cyclic, sustainable energy that we haven't entertained. It's the new way. It came through at the end of 2020, and we're not going to go back.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that's really interesting. There's so many things to take into consideration here that are working not against us, but around us. And if we don't take advantage of what is being offered, we're going to miss an opportunity, a major opportunity. So
Yeah.
can you provide examples of successful businesses or entrepreneurs who have effectively integrated astrology into their strategic planning? You did give me a couple of them, of a couple of them that you.
Yeah, I mean, so I have done this with over 425 business leaders. So there's that. I would say that I mean, Fast Company just came out with an article probably I want to say it's like 2 or 3 months ago. And there was an article in the Post just the other day about how astrology is influencing work culture in the biggest companies. And it is the workforce. So I find that fascinating. And people are using it to build teams and to figure out how, because think of remote teams, right? So, and how to have them work more effectively together and have them work more effectively to get to their goals of what they want to achieve.
I'm working with one client right now, and she came to me because she wanted me to help her put together a program that she can go out on stage with. She's a trainer type deal, and she wanted to incorporate the spirit animal into this. And the more I worked with her, the more I got her thinking about the spirit animal and brands, brand archetypes.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. And I said, there is a correlation here, especially when it comes to business. If you have your brand archetype identified and you're looking for individuals or staff members, by understanding the spirit type or the spirit animal, it's easy for both of them to benefit from this, because it's easier to find out, okay, whether there's a position within a company that matches or facilitates your spirit animal, and vice versa. These companies can look at the spirit animal and say, okay, this one might be a good fit for here. So,
absolutely. This is why I came up with my quiz that it has the 6 archetypes, because that is exactly what it helps with. It helps with brand identification for your ideal client. It helps with how to message to them. Yes, and it helps how to build teams. Absolutely. If we can self-identify with it's more an objective lens, then we can get out of our minds and we can start using these tools that are available and accessible to everybody. And if we start speaking the same language on that, it's beautiful. It can be business changing.
And I think that's what it is we're moving into another realm here, whereas corporations, your businesses are having to adjust to the new way of working, and working remotely, which, up until COVID, they had been the stars at the top of the peak, and they could pick and choose what they wanted. And us as employees or whatever, it's like either you take it or you leave. Right. And now it's to the point where they can't even find qualified people because, employees have found out, look, there's other ways of doing it. There's ways that I can, get by without having to bow down to corporate oversight.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, timing wise, we have from now until November of 2024, where there's going to be that mixed bag where it's like, oh, we're going to do things a little bit more traditionally. No. We're going to do things a little bit, more, forward thinking, more future oriented, more grassroots, more bottoms up versus tops down. But then after that, it's all bottom up all day long for the next 20 years. It's not going back.
That's nice to know.
Isn't that good to know?
That gives us more opportunities. It gives me more opportunities too.
Absolutely.
Working with these small business owners, deep down, the vision for me and my company has been and always been the fact that our small businesses don't get the help that they need out there. Okay. And I want to ultimately get to a point where I get a bill passed through Congress that if Small business owners, before they go get their business license, if they can show that they have gone through some kind of certification training as an entrepreneur, so that they know what they're getting into when they start a business, that they
Yes.
can qualify for some kind of incentives, government incentives, or something to help them in those early stages
Absolutely.
of business, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. When you're starting with startups, that grand idea is just so intoxicating.
Yeah.
And yet, if it's not fully aligned with you, like I always say to some people that I run into that are startups, if you, and I am cheeky about this, Donna, if you don't want to talk about this 1,000 hours a day, then you might not want to do this, right?
Right.
And of course, that's a cheeky example, but it is, you've got to eat it, drink it, and like be it. And no matter what is happening.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, and ultimately, you know, deep down, I believe that if we can just turn around the number of failed businesses in the US, it's only going to positively impact our GDP, our labor force, and the psyche of the families and the entrepreneur and their families.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know?
Think of the spirit that this country was built on. Right?
Yeah.
That goes right back to it.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. Well, we are coming up on the end of another episode of Charged Up Studio. And thank you, Kim, for joining us today and shedding light on how cosmic forces shape our business landscape. You know, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. So any last tips you want to leave us with?
I would say follow your heart. Right. Let your heart, because that's the marriage of the mind and the intuition as well. Like, be passionate and don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah, no, definitely. So how can our listeners get a hold of you should they want to talk to you?
Absolutely. So kimwoods.com, easy to remember, easy to type in. There's my website. You can book a call and you can check out some things. But if you're interested in the avatar quiz, like I said, over 21,000 people have taken it. It's knowyourlifequiz.com. And you'll get your avatar, you get an 11-page report, you get a beautiful welcoming, and you can start following to know and learn more about the money and the marketing and the sales, because we do a lot of that work online.
No, definitely, definitely. So that concludes our podcast for today. Please leave a review on any of the streaming platforms you are listening to us on, or go to our Charged Up Studio Facebook page and leave a review there. Charged Up Studio is a product of Marketatomy and Marketatomy Academy, the e-learning environment system designed specifically with the micro business owner in mind. For more information and to register for our mini courses, go to marketatomy.academy, MARKETATOMY. Talk to you next week with another exciting guest. I look forward to it. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Charged Up Studio Live, the podcast with you, the small business owner, in mind, with your host, Danna Olivo. Join us every Tuesday as we bring you valuable tips and insights into many of the topics you don't know about growing a successful business. Please leave us a review on any of the streaming platforms you are listening to, or visit us on the YouTube or Facebook page and leave a review or subscribe so you don't miss another episode. You can also support us through Patreon by visiting our website, chargedupstudio.live, and click on the Patreon link. Until next week, go out and have a charged up week.